Bridget Brink, the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, is speaking out about resigning from the Trump administration due to Trump's appeasement to mass murderer and child kidnapper Putin. I resigned from Ukraine and also from the Foreign Service because the policy since the beginning of the administration was to put pressure on the victim, Ukraine, rather than on the aggressor, Russia, Brink told Margaret Brennan on Sunday on CBS's Face the Nation. I fully agree that the war needs to end, but I agree that peace at any price is not peace at all. It's appeasement, and we know from history appeasement only leads to more war. Brink spent 3 years in Ukraine after being nominated to her position under former President Joe Biden in May 2022, just a few months after Russia's full-scale attempt of invading Ukraine. In an op-ed for the Detroit Free Press, she wrote that she couldn't in good faith adhere to the diplomatic instructions coming out of the new Trump White House. President Trump has made ending the war in Ukraine one of the central parts of his foreign policy campaign pledges, but has failed miserably, acting more like he is trying to protect child kidnapper and mass murderer Putin rather than being tough, smart, and on America's side and using USA's incredible might to end the war in one day, as he promised. We are well past 100 days now. Trump directs most of his anger and jealousy towards Ukraine and Zelensky rather than sleazy Russian President Vladimir Putin. You'll notice Trump always mentions Russian troops first when mentioning large number of weekly deaths in the war. He always says, Russians are dying, Russians and Ukrainians, Russian soldiers and Ukraine. He always says Russians first. He said, they're not us, but the Russians. Maybe does Putin care? Does Putin care? Trump acts more concerned about Russian soldiers dying than even Putin does. If Putin cared about Russians dying, a few thousand a week, he would have cared 500,000 Russian deaths to go. You think he's going to care about 1,000 more? There's been over 1 million deaths now. Former Ambassador Brink told Margaret Brennan, it has to be peace that does it has to be a peace that does things that advance our own interests, and those are really simple. It's how to keep Ukraine free, how to deter Russia, and how to send the right signal to China. And this is what we should be doing. It's very simple. For Brink, the first sign was Trump's emotional instability in the Oval Office press conference with Vice President Vance and Ukrainian President Zelensky, during which Trump and Vance attacked Zelensky for being supposedly ungrateful, even though he said thank you multiple times. And then Vance, after he said thank you, said, did you even say thank you? And he actually did say thank you. And then kicked him out of the White House. Zelensky was not ready for peace, Trump said on Truth Social after that, which is a social media platform which is losing money. Brink's public turn comes with Trump scheduled to speak with Putin on the phone Monday. The president has grown increasingly frustrated with Moscow as he pushes for a 30-day unconditional ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. But he doesn't seem to be pushing really that hard. It's all like fluff. It's all fluff. He just keeps going back and forth. Trump in April finally acknowledged Putin could be tapping, quote unquote, tapping me along. Oh, really? You figured that out? It took this long to figure it out? That Trump, he's a fucking scumbag? And may not want to stop war in Ukraine. Duh. It's obvious Putin doesn't want to stop. A 5-year-old could tell you that. At least some Republicans in Congress, meanwhile, are waiting to impose new sanctions on Russia as Trump keeps delaying taking action. We've seen the devastation that happens when we appease aggressors, and we do not want to do that again, Brink said. So my strong advice in terms of how to deal with Putin and Russia is not to give a single meeting or concession or legitimacy until Putin agrees to an unconditional ceasefire that's verifiable and moves forward towards a just and lasting peace. I mean, really, it's even more than that. I mean, you got to be honest with who this type of person is. I mean, he's a mini Hitler. Okay, he's a mini Hitler. He's a Russian Hitler. Okay, and the only way Hitler was stopped was not through diplomacy, trying to do a ceasefire. It was complete and utter surrender. We completely took out his oil capacity. They don't really talk about that too much in detail. You talk about just the invasion and the killing of the people and all that stuff. But you had to attack his oil supplies because Germany was producing their own synthetic oil. They were the ones that created, really specialized in creating, because they didn't have natural oil. They didn't have a source of natural oil. So they created it, synthetic oil, in the factories. So that's what we attacked. That's also what we did with Japan. We cut off their oil supply because they were going crazy, invading everybody, and they invaded us. So that's what you had to do. And once you can't, you're feeding the beast. You can't, like if there's a cancer, you don't just and you know exactly what's feeding it. Like it's like scientifically proven. You know exactly what's like. It's like I'd say there's a toxin that you got exposed to, and then you're just like, okay, well, we'll just keep exposing us to the toxin just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. We'll cut it down a little, cut it down a little bit. We're still just letting it build up, build up. I mean, you got to stop it. You got to cut it out.